colons can be very tricky for a standardized test, okay? It's not so tricky in writing because we usually don't choose to use them. There are oftentimes better options, but you know, this test is trying to trick you, so they love to use colons because they're tricky, okay? This is the all-encompassing rule for the colon. A complete sentence has to come before it, okay? What follows can be anything so long as it further explains the complete sentence. Here's a link that goes into a lot of detail about this, but again, this link is gonna tell you when to use a colon, fine. But I'm gonna tell you how they're gonna try to trick you with it, okay? So when we use a colon, we usually are taught to do it before a list. I went to the store to get ingredients for the Snickers salad. Marshmallows, vanilla pudding, sliced apples, and sliced Snickers bars. You want to think of a colon as anything that can replace, such as, for example, like, which is to say, thusly, okay? It's kind of like a flashing equal sign. Think about it like that. Like, hey, look, this is what I'm talking about, okay? It also means it's redundant. So you're not going to do colon such as, or such as colon. You're not going to do that. The colon replaces words like such as, like, for example, okay? You can also do it as a list of one. One of the ingredients for the salad is a surprise. Snickers, okay? Now, here's the thing. This is why it gets confusing. I'm going to scroll out here, okay? An independent clause comes before a colon, and what comes after the colon is anything that adds context or details to the independent clause. So here's the thing. That can also be another independent clause, and you may say, why would you do that? You should just use a semicolon. Right. That's confusing, right? So when your teachers teach you to write, they're going to teach you to use a semicolon if it's an independent clause, and they're going to teach you to use a colon if it's a list. But the ACT isn't trying to teach you how to write well. They're trying to trick you. So there are other reasons to use colons. I didn't know them until I tutored the SAT and the ACT. Most people don't know them unless they're a tutor. Most tutors don't know this. Most people don't use it, but the ACT is not acting in your best interest. This is a thing you learn from tutoring. This is one of the things that is explicitly a benefit of tutoring, because high school doesn't teach you this. Again, high school's teaching you how to write correctly. Okay, so you have to understand that there is a technical reason other than what you're used to for a colon. They're going to use it. This is, in my opinion, the spiciest SAT problem I've ever seen. This is truly a bad faith question, okay? Okay, take Bartlett pears, for instance. Unless they are treated with exactly the right amount of 1 MCP at exactly the right time, they will remain hard and green until they rot, and consumers who experience this will be unlikely to purchase them again. What's the right answer? Well, this is colon, so I'm sure you can get from that inference that it's B. Okay? But the thing is, that comes after the word for instance. And I literally just said, don't do that. The problem is, the thing that is being instanced, that you're taking for instance, is the Bartlett pears. They rearrange that sentence, which you technically can do. You can take the beginning of a sentence and put it at the end of the sentence and use a comma to offset it, if it's kind of like out of order. They did that here. So this is an SAT question. So the SAT knows that most of you guys have been taught to use a colon before a list. They know that some of you have been taught also don't ever use a colon after words like for instance. So they're just like, well, let's look at an example where that isn't true, because they're trying to be tricky. Can you just see that? Okay, also, that's a list of 3 clauses. Unless they remain, consumer's experience. That's 3 clauses there. Okay, so we're used to lists, so I guess it's a list of clauses, right? But we're used to just lists of ingredients or something like that. This is an extremely rare usage of a colon. Furthermore, okay, Normally, a good writer is not going to write they so quickly after the antecedent. I would tell you to never write like this. So when I wrote appraisals, my appraisals would be using court proceedings like divorces or or legal proceedings. A lot of my reports were used to get permits. A lot of times I appraised something before it was built, and that sort of thing was taken to a zoning board. These were official proceedings, right? So I had to do a lot of writing. If I ever wrote this, my clients and the lawyers who I worked with would send that back to me. They're like, yeah, I looked it up. You're technically correct, but what are you doing? Why would you write like that? Because we wanted to write in a way to be understood, okay? Do not put a pronoun that closely. It should be, for instance, unless Bartlett pairs are treated. There is no reason to have a complete independent sentence before that colon. There is no reason for it. There's no other than to trick you. That's why I mean, this is an extremely spicy question, and it's clearly written in bad faith. There isn't like a reasonable excuse to write like this. Someone is trying to be tricky. And I want you to get those right. So you got to think they're trying to get me, okay? It is frustrating.